Welcome, and let the world grow quiet around you. As you settle in, and let your breathing slow down all on its own, imagine drifting gently outward from the Earth, past the Moon, and out into the deep and peaceful dark, beginning a calm and unhurried tour of 100 quiet facts about our solar system. This is not a tour designed to frighten or excite, but a gentle invitation to wonder and to drift softly towards sleep. There is nothing at all you need to remember tonight. Just let the words wash over you, one slow and quiet fact at a time, as you sink a little deeper into rest. The first fact is that our solar system was born about 4.5 billion years ago, when a vast and slowly turning cloud of gas and dust drifted quietly through space, and then began to collapse inward under the soft and patient pull of its own gravity, until a new star kindled gently at its heart. The second fact is that this great collapsing cloud is called the solar nebula, and as it fell slowly inward it began to spin faster and faster, flattening over long ages into a wide and turning disk, with most of its material gathering softly toward the warm and growing center. The third fact is that at the very center of that spinning disk, the gathering gas grew so dense and so hot that it finally ignited into steady nuclear fire, and in that quiet moment our sun was born, beginning a long and gentle life of light that has already lasted for billions of years, and that still warms your small blue world softly to this very day. The fourth fact is that the sun holds about 99.8% of all the mass in the entire solar system, so that every planet, every moon, every comet, and every drifting grain of dust together make up only the smallest sliver of everything that quietly circles around it. The fifth fact is that the sun is an ordinary star, a warm yellow sphere of glowing gas so wide that about 1,300,000 Earths could fit inside it, and yet, among the countless billions of stars scattered across the whole of the galaxy, it is really quite average, neither especially large nor especially small, a steady and unremarkable light among many. The sixth fact is that the sun shines because deep within its core, hydrogen is slowly fused into helium under enormous heat and crushing pressure, turning about 600 million tons of hydrogen into light and gentle warmth every single second, and it has done so patiently for billions of years. The seventh fact is that the light leaving the sun takes about 8 minutes and 20 seconds to cross the great distance to the Earth, so that the sunlight now warming your face has already been traveling quietly through space since a little while before you first noticed it, and whenever you look toward the sun, you are gently seeing it as it was a few minutes ago. The eighth fact is that the surface of the sun, called the photosphere, glows at about 5,500 degrees, while its hidden core burns far hotter still, at around 15 million degrees, a warmth we can scarcely imagine as we rest here safely so very far away. The ninth fact is that around the young sun, tiny grains of dust within the disk began to stick softly together, gathering into larger and larger clumps over long ages, in a slow and patient process that scientists call accretion, gently building the very seeds of every world to come, grain by grain and pebble by pebble, in the quiet darkness of the early solar system. The 10th fact is that these growing clumps, called planetesimals, drew in still more material with their gathering gravity, colliding and merging over many millions of years, until at last they had grown into the planets we know today, each one slowly sweeping clean its own quiet path around the sun. The 11th fact is that close to the warm young sun, only rock and metal could survive the fierce heat, and so the inner worlds formed small and dense and stony, while far out in the cold, where ice and gas could gently endure, the great giant planets slowly grew enormous, gathering vast envelopes of light gas that the inner worlds could never have kept so near the fire. The 12th fact is that 8 planets circle the sun today, and they all travel in nearly the same flat plane, and turn in the same direction, a gentle echo of that first spinning disk from which they were every one of them quietly born so very long ago. The 13th fact is that the 4 inner worlds, Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars, are called the terrestrial planets, small and rocky and solid underfoot, while the 4 outer ones, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, are vast balls of gas and ice, without any true surface at all upon which one could ever hope to stand, only deeper and deeper layers of cloud. The 14th fact is that the sun does not stay perfectly still, but slowly rotates, turning once about every 25 days near its equator, and a little more slowly near its poles, since it is made of glowing gas rather than solid rock, and so it need not turn all together as one single piece. The 15th fact is that the sun is wrapped in a faint outer atmosphere called the corona, which stretches millions of kilometers out into space and glows softly during a total eclipse, appearing then as a pale and gentle crown of light around the darkened disk of the moon, a delicate halo revealed only in those rare and quiet moments when the daylight is briefly hidden away. The 16th fact is that a steady stream of tiny particles flows outward from the sun in every direction, called the solar wind, drifting quietly past all the planets and filling the whole solar system with a soft and invisible breeze that reaches far beyond even the outermost worlds. The 17th fact is that the sun sometimes releases bright bursts of energy called solar flares, and great clouds of particles that can paint the skies of Earth with the shimmering colors of the auroras, the northern and southern lights, glowing gently green and rose in the quiet polar night, curtains of soft color drifting slowly overhead while the world below lies sleeping. The 18th fact is that the sun is now about halfway through its long life, and it will go on shining steadily and kindly for roughly another 5 billion years, giving the Earth and all of its neighbors a long and peaceful span of gentle warmth and light. The 19th fact is that in the far and distant future, the sun will slowly swell into a red giant, growing vast and cool and rosy, before gently shedding its outer layers into space and settling at last into a small, dense, and quietly fading ember that we call a white dwarf, cooling ever so slowly through ages far longer than we could ever count. The 20th fact is that everything in the solar system, including the ground beneath you and the very atoms within your own body, was gathered from that same ancient cloud, so that you are, in the truest and gentlest sense, made of the very same stuff as the sun and all the planets and all the far and shining stars. The 21st fact is that Mercury is the smallest planet, and the closest of all to the sun, a little scorched and cratered world only slightly larger than our own moon, racing swiftly through the bright glare and circling all the way around the sun in just 88 days. The 22nd fact is that although Mercury sits nearest the sun, it is not the hottest planet, for it holds almost no air at all to trap the warmth, and so its long nights grow bitterly cold, swinging between scorching days and freezing dark more sharply than any other world, from hundreds of degrees of heat to hundreds of degrees below in the deep shadow. The 23rd fact is that Mercury turns very slowly upon itself, so that a single one of its days, from one sunrise to the next, lasts about 176 Earth days, longer even than 2 of its own short years spent hurrying around the sun, so that on Mercury, strangely, a single day is longer than a whole year and more. The 24th fact is that Venus is the second planet from the sun, and very nearly a twin of the Earth in size and in weight, and yet it is wrapped in a thick and heavy blanket of cloud that hides its whole surface completely from view beneath a pale and unbroken veil. The 25th fact is that Venus is the hottest planet of all, hotter even than Mercury, because its dense air of carbon dioxide traps the sun's warmth in a runaway greenhouse, holding the surface at around 460 degrees, hot enough to melt a bar of lead, and this suffocating heat lies evenly across the whole planet, by day and by night alike. The 26th fact is that Venus turns backward compared with most of the other planets, and so very slowly that a single day upon it lasts longer than its entire year, so that on Venus, if only you could see it through the clouds, the sun would rise softly in the west and set again in the east. The 27th fact is that Earth is the third planet from the sun, and the only world we know where liquid water flows freely across the surface, and where life has taken hold, a warm blue oasis turning quietly in the dark, wrapped in white clouds and blue oceans and green land, and the gentle home you are resting peacefully upon on this very night. The 28th fact is that the Earth sits at just the right distance from the Sun, in a gentle band sometimes called the habitable zone, neither too hot nor too cold, so that water may remain liquid, and so that living things may drink and grow and quietly flourish. The 29th fact is that our world is wrapped in an atmosphere of nitrogen and oxygen, and cradled within a soft magnetic field that reaches far out into space, quietly shielding the surface from the solar wind and letting life go gently on in safety beneath its unseen protection. An invisible shelter that has guarded the Earth patiently for billions of years. The 30th fact is that the Earth spins once each day upon a gently tilted axis, and it is this soft tilt, leaning always the same way as we circle the Sun, that gives us the slow and turning seasons, the long warm summers and the quiet resting winters. The 31st fact is that the Moon is our only natural satellite, a quiet gray companion that has circled the Earth for billions of years, and it is thought to have formed when a young planet about the size of Mars struck the early Earth, casting up a great ring of glowing debris that slowly gathered together, over time, into the Moon we know. The 32nd fact is that the Moon always shows us the very same face, for it turns once upon itself in exactly the time it takes to circle the Earth, so that its far side stays forever hidden from our eyes, unseen and unknown until at last we sent our spacecraft quietly around it. The 33rd fact is that the gentle pull of the Moon raises the tides upon our seas, drawing the oceans slowly up and softly down twice each day, a quiet rhythm of rising and falling water that has rocked the shores of the Earth far longer than there have been any eyes at all to watch it, patient and faithful through age after age. The 34th fact is that the Moon is slowly drifting away from the Earth, moving outward by about 4 centimeters each year, roughly the same unhurried pace at which your own fingernails grow, so that in the deep and distant past it hung larger and closer in the ancient, darkened sky. The 35th fact is that Mars is the 4th planet from the Sun, a cold and rusty desert world, its soil rich in iron oxide, which is much the same as ordinary rust, and which lends the whole planet its soft and reddish glow, and has earned it the old and gentle name that we still know it by today, the Red Planet. The 36th fact is that Mars is home to the tallest known volcano in the entire solar system, a vast and gently sloping mountain called Olympus Mons, which rises about 22 kilometers high, nearly 3 times the height of Mount Everest here on our own quiet Earth. The 37th fact is that Mars also holds an enormous canyon called Valles Marineris, a great system of valleys stretching more than 4,000 kilometers across the planet, so long and so deep that it would reach nearly all the way across an entire continent were it set gently down upon the Earth, dwarfing every canyon that we know on our own world. The 38th fact is that a day upon Mars is remarkably like our own, lasting only a little under 25 hours, and the planet leans upon a tilted axis much as the Earth does, so that Mars, too, turns slowly through its own long cycle of quiet and changing seasons. The 39th fact is that scientists believe rivers and lakes once flowed across the surface of Mars long ago. For the spacecraft that visit it have found dry riverbeds and ancient shorelines and smooth, water-worn stones, gentle traces of a warmer and wetter world that has since grown cold and dry, and still, its old waters long since frozen or drifted away into space. The 40th fact is that Mars has 2 small moons, named Phobos and Deimos, little lumps of dark, irregular rock that may once have been asteroids, drifting close before the planet gently gathered them into its orbit, where they still circle it quietly and faithfully to this very day. The 41st fact is that Jupiter is the largest planet of all, a vast ball of gas so enormous that more than 1,300 Earths could fit inside it, and it holds more mass than all of the other planets of the solar system combined together, a true giant among worlds, quietly ruling the outer reaches with the strength of its great gravity. The 42nd fact is that Jupiter is made mostly of hydrogen and helium, the very same light gases that make up the Sun itself, and had it only gathered a good deal more material in its distant youth, it might one day have kindled into a small and dim second star. The 43rd fact is that Jupiter spins faster than any other planet, turning once upon itself in only about 10 hours. A swift rotation that stretches its clouds into the beautiful bands and belts of cream and gold and soft brown that we see wrapping gently around it. Great rivers of wind flowing in opposite directions, layer upon quiet layer, all around the giant. The 44th fact is that upon Jupiter there turns a great storm called the Great Red Spot, a swirling tempest wider than the whole Earth, which has been slowly turning for at least a few hundred years, and perhaps far longer, a calm-looking eye of deep red wind that never truly comes to rest. The 45th fact is that Jupiter is circled by at least 95 known moons, a whole miniature system all its own, and among them are 4 large worlds first seen by Galileo in the year 1610, gently overturning the old belief that all things in the heavens must circle only the Earth, and showing that other worlds, too, could hold their own faithful moons. The 46th fact is that one of those moons, Io, is the most volcanic world in the entire solar system, its surface forever reshaped by hundreds of erupting volcanoes, endlessly squeezed and kneaded by the powerful tides of mighty Jupiter turning close beside it in the dark. The 47th fact is that another of Jupiter's moons, Europa, hides a deep ocean of liquid salt water beneath its smooth and icy crust, holding perhaps more water than all the seas of Earth, and that quiet, hidden sea is now one of the most hopeful places where simple life beyond the Earth might one day, perhaps, be gently and patiently found. The 48th fact is that Ganymede, another of Jupiter's moons, is the largest moon in all the solar system, even bigger across than the planet Mercury itself, and it is the only moon we know of that makes a magnetic field of its very own, born deep within its icy heart. The 49th fact is that Saturn is the 6th planet from the Sun, a pale golden giant famous above all else for its magnificent rings, the brightest and most beautiful set of rings around any planet in the whole of the solar system, softly and gracefully encircling it, a wide and shining halo that has made it the most recognizable of all the worlds. The 50th fact is that Saturn's glorious rings are made of countless separate pieces of ice and rock, some as small as grains of sand and others as large as houses or even mountains, all circling the planet together in a broad, bright, and endlessly turning band of quiet, shimmering light. The 51st fact is that although Saturn's rings stretch far wider than the planet itself, spanning many hundreds of thousands of kilometers across, they are astonishingly thin, often only about 10 meters from top to bottom, a vast and delicate sheet of ice hanging so gracefully in the dark that, seen edge-on from afar, they can seem to disappear entirely from view. The 52nd fact is that Saturn is the least dense of all the planets, so light for its very great size that, were there an ocean somehow wide enough to hold it, the whole enormous planet would gently float upon the water like a great pale drifting bubble. The 53rd fact is that Saturn's largest moon, Titan, is a strange and fascinating world wrapped in a thick golden haze, and it is the only moon known to have a true, thick atmosphere, with rivers and lakes and gentle rain upon its surface, though they are made not of water but of cold liquid methane, flowing quietly across a frozen and alien land. The 54th fact is that another of Saturn's moons, Enceladus, sprays great fountains of water and ice from long cracks near its south pole, out into space, feeding one of Saturn's faint outer rings, and hinting at yet another hidden ocean sleeping softly beneath its bright and frozen shell. The 55th fact is that Uranus is the 7th planet, a serene and pale blue-green world of gas and ice, so far away and so dim that it was the very first planet ever discovered with a telescope, in the year 1781, quite unknown to all the patient watchers of the ancient world, who had never once suspected that it was there at all. The 56th fact is that Uranus is tipped almost entirely onto its side, rolling around the sun like a ball rather than spinning upright like a top, so that its poles, rather than its equator, take turns facing the distant sun through the long course of its very long year. The 57th fact is that because of this strange sideways tilt, each pole of Uranus spends about 42 years bathed in continuous sunlight, and then another 42 years wrapped in unbroken darkness, in the slowest and the longest days and nights of any planet that we know, so that a single winter's night there lasts longer than most human lives. The 58th fact is that Uranus takes about 84 Earth years to travel just once around the Sun, so long and so patient a journey that since it was first discovered, back in the year 1781, it has quietly completed only a small handful of its own great orbits. The 59th fact is that Neptune is the 8th and most distant planet, a deep and vivid blue world far out in the cold, so remote that it cannot be seen at all without a telescope, and was found first not by the eye, but by careful and patient mathematics, its hidden place predicted upon paper before anyone had ever once glimpsed it in the sky. The 60th fact is that Neptune has the fastest winds of any planet in the whole solar system, great gales that can race across its cloud tops at more than 2,000 kilometers each hour, driving pale white clouds swiftly through its calm and lovely deep blue skies. The 61st fact is that beyond the orbit of Mars there lies the asteroid belt, a broad and gentle ring of rocky bodies circling the Sun, the leftover building blocks of a planet that never quite came together, kept forever scattered by the mighty pull of nearby Jupiter, whose great gravity long ago stirred them apart and would not let them gather into a single world. The 62nd fact is that although the asteroid belt holds many millions of rocks, they are spread across such a vast and open expanse of space that they lie, on average, very far apart from one another, so that a spacecraft may drift straight through the belt and never once pass close to a single one. The 63rd fact is that the largest object in the asteroid belt is Ceres, round enough and large enough to be counted as a dwarf planet in its own right, a small gray world about 940 kilometers across, holding perhaps a little hidden ice of water deep within it, the gentle king of that broad and drifting ring of stone. The 64th fact is that most asteroids are irregular lumps of rock and metal, left over from the very birth of the solar system more than 4 billion years ago, quiet fragments that never grew into planets, still drifting patiently along their ancient and unhurried paths around the Sun. The 65th fact is that comets are often gently called dirty snowballs, small bodies of ice and dust that come drifting inward from the cold and distant edges of the solar system, warming slowly as they near the Sun after long journeys that can last many thousands of years, falling inward from the dark, brightening for a while, and then quietly returning to the cold. The 66th fact is that as a comet draws near the Sun, its ices begin to warm and turn softly into gas, releasing dust and forming a long, glowing tail that always streams away from the Sun, sometimes stretching for millions of kilometers across the quiet and darkened sky, a soft banner of light unfurling gently behind the small and icy wanderer. The 67th fact is that a comet actually grows two tails as it nears the Sun, one of pale dust curving gently behind it along its path, and one of glowing gas pushed straight outward by the solar wind, both of them shining softly as they trail across the deep dark, always pointing away from the Sun no matter which way the comet travels. The 68th fact is that perhaps the most famous of all is Halley's Comet, which returns to our skies about once every 76 years, so that most people may hope to see it only once, or perhaps just twice, in the whole quiet span of a single human life, a faithful visitor whose returns have been gently watched and recorded for many centuries. The 69th fact is that the beautiful meteor showers that streak softly across our night skies are made of tiny grains of dust left behind by passing comets, burning up gently and harmlessly high in the air as the Earth drifts each year through their scattered and glowing trails, so that each falling star is really only a speck of ancient comet dust. The 70th fact is that Pluto, once counted as the 9th planet, was gently reclassified in the year 2006 as a dwarf planet, a small and icy world far out in the cold, one of many similar bodies that we have slowly come to find drifting in the outer dark, no longer alone as a single distant planet, but one member of a whole quiet family. The 71st fact is that Pluto is so very far from the Sun that it takes about 248 Earth years to complete a single orbit, so that since its discovery back in the year 1930, it has not yet finished even one of its long, slow years, and will not do so until well over a century still to come. The 72nd fact is that in the year 2015, a small spacecraft named New Horizons swept quietly past Pluto and revealed it at last as a surprising and beautiful world, with smooth plains of frozen nitrogen, rugged mountains of solid water ice, and a great pale heart-shaped region upon its face, far more varied and lovely than anyone had ever dared to hope. The 73rd fact is that Pluto has a large moon named Charon, so big compared with Pluto itself that the two small worlds circle a shared point in the empty space between them, rather than one simply orbiting the other, turning together like a slow and graceful pair of dancers holding hands across the quiet dark, forever facing one another as they spin. The 74th fact is that beyond Neptune lies the Kuiper Belt, a broad and frozen ring of icy worlds and drifting comets, far larger and far wider than the asteroid belt, and the quiet home of Pluto and many other small and distant dwarf planets circling gently in the deep cold, the shadowed outer frontier of the Sun's great family of worlds. The 75th fact is that among those distant dwarf worlds is Eris, about the same size as Pluto and yet even a little heavier, whose discovery gently prompted astronomers to think more carefully about what a planet truly is, and how such small and faraway worlds should best be named, a question that quietly reshaped the way we count the members of our solar system. The 76th fact is that other dwarf planets in the outer solar system include Haumea, which spins so very quickly that it has been stretched into an odd, elongated egg-like shape, and Makemake, a small reddish world drifting quietly through the cold far beyond the orbit of distant Neptune, each of them a strange and lonely little world in the deep outer dark. The 77th fact is that the solar system holds more than 200 known moons, a wonderful and varied family of small worlds, from tiny captured rocks no bigger than mountains to great round spheres larger even than some planets, each one circling faithfully around its own world in the slow and silent dark, held gently in orbit for billions of quiet years. The 78th fact is that Neptune's largest moon, Triton, orbits its planet backward, against the direction that Neptune itself turns, which strongly suggests that it was once a free and wandering world of the Kuiper Belt, later captured gently into orbit long ago, where it now drifts slowly and coldly around the giant, a distant traveler that found, at last, a home. The 79th fact is that many of the icy moons of the outer planets may hide oceans of liquid water beneath their frozen crusts, kept from freezing by the gentle warmth of tides squeezing softly at their hearts, so that hidden seas may be surprisingly common out in the cold and distant dark, quiet buried oceans sleeping beneath shells of ice, far from the sun. The 80th fact is that from time to time small pieces of rock from space fall through our atmosphere and reach the ground, and these are called meteorites, quiet visitors from the asteroid belt or from beyond, carrying within them the ancient story of the early solar system, some of them older than the Earth itself, older than any stone you could ever find at home. The 81st fact is that the distances within the solar system are so vast that astronomers measure them with a special unit called the astronomical unit, which is simply the distance from the Earth to the Sun, about 150 million kilometers of empty space, a single gentle ruler laid out across the dark to measure the spaces between the worlds. The 82nd fact is that light, the fastest thing in all the universe, takes only about 8 minutes to reach us from the Sun, but more than 4 hours to travel all the way out to distant Neptune, a gentle sign of just how truly enormous our solar system is, so wide that even light, which never slows, must journey for hours to cross it. The 83rd fact is that if the sun were shrunk down to the size of a small round grapefruit, the Earth would be a tiny grain no wider than the head of a pin, circling quietly some 15 meters away, and far-off Neptune would drift nearly half a kilometer distant in the dark, a gentle reminder of how much empty space lies between the worlds. The 84th fact is that far beyond the orbit of Neptune, the solar wind at last grows thin and gentle and finally gives way to the space between the stars, at a soft and shifting boundary that scientists have quietly named the heliopause, the true outer edge of the sun's domain, where its warm breath fades away into the deep cold of the galaxy. The 85th fact is that the two Voyager spacecraft, launched all the way back in the year 1977, have now traveled far beyond that distant boundary and out into interstellar space, the very first human-made objects ever to journey quietly beyond the gentle reach of the sun's warm wind, still drifting silently onward, carrying their small golden records out among the stars. The 86th fact is that far, far beyond even the Kuiper belt, astronomers believe there lies the Oort cloud, a vast and gentle sphere of countless icy bodies surrounding the whole of the solar system on every side, so unimaginably distant that a single orbit out there may take millions of slow and patient years, a quiet shell of frozen worlds cradling everything within. The 87th fact is that the Oort cloud may reach as much as a quarter of the way to the nearest other star, so that the true and outermost edge of our solar system lies unimaginably far away, out in the deep and silent cold between the suns, where the sun itself would appear as little more than one bright star among all the rest. The 88th fact is that the nearest star beyond our own sun is Proxima Centauri, resting about 4¼ light-years away, so very distant that even the swift light of the sun itself would need more than 4 long years to make the crossing out to it, a reminder of the great and peaceful gulfs of space that lie between the stars. The 89th fact is that the whole solar system, the sun and all its planets and moons together, drifts through the galaxy at about 230 kilometers each second, carrying you gently along with it, quietly and smoothly, even as you lie so perfectly still tonight, moving swifter than any arrow, and yet feeling nothing at all but calm and rest. The 90th fact is that the sun carries its whole family of worlds along one enormous orbit around the distant center of the Milky Way galaxy, a single vast and sweeping circle so grand that it takes about 230 million years to complete just one slow and gentle turn, so that we have not yet circled it even once since the last of the dinosaurs. The 91st fact is that our solar system is only one of perhaps hundreds of billions within the Milky Way alone, and astronomers have already found many thousands of other planets circling other distant stars, so that worlds, it seems, are gently scattered all across the sky. The 92nd fact is that despite all that we have learned, the solar system still holds many quiet mysteries, and somewhere in the dark far beyond Neptune there may yet drift another large and undiscovered planet, waiting patiently to be found by the watchers of some future night. A distant world still hidden in the shadows at the edge of everything we know. The 93rd fact is that everything you have ever known, every ocean and mountain, every living thing, and every person who has ever lived, has spent its whole existence upon one small blue planet, a single quiet world circling one ordinary star among the countless billions of stars, a tiny, cherished home turning gently in the vastness of the dark. The 94th fact is that the same gentle gravity that holds all the planets in their orbits also holds you softly upon the Earth right now, keeping you resting safely and easily where you are, cradled by the very same quiet and patient force that turns the whole solar system through the dark, the same soft pull binding you and the planets alike. The 95th fact is that the atoms of iron within your blood and the calcium within your bones were forged long ago inside ancient stars and scattered gently through space, later gathering together into the sun and the earth and into you, so that you are quite truly made of old and gentle stardust, an intimate part of the very cosmos you are drifting through tonight. The 96th fact is that the solar system has turned patiently for 4.5 billion years, and it will go on turning for billions more, a slow and steady dance of worlds that will carry on gently through the long night and through all the nights that are still to come. The 97th fact is that to picture the calm and turning solar system, with all its quiet worlds drifting faithfully along their ancient paths, is to feel a gentle stillness settle softly over the mind, a peaceful and unhurried sense of order in the vast and quiet dark, a soothing thought to carry gently with you as you sink a little deeper towards sleep. The 98th fact is that even now, as you rest, the planets are turning slowly along their orbits, the comets are drifting quietly in from the cold, and the sun is shining steadily on, holding its whole quiet family gently together, exactly as it has for ages beyond all counting, a calm and faithful motion that asks nothing of you but to rest. The 99th fact is that you are a small and gentle and beloved part of this vast and turning solar system, cradled safely upon a quiet blue world, circling a warm and steady star, held softly in its long and patient arms, exactly where you are meant to be, and exactly where you may rest now, safe and calm, through all the hours of the night. The 100th fact is that as you drift now into sleep, the planets go on turning, and the sun goes on shining, and the whole solar system goes on drifting, patient and calm and endless, holding you softly and safely through all the quiet hours of the night. Rest now, sleep well, and thank you for drifting with me beyond the stars.